Birmingham, Alabama, for almost 40 years starting in the 1930s, as government researchers purposely let hundreds of black men die of syphilis in Alabama so they could study the disease. A foundation in New York covered funeral expenses for the deceased. The payments were vital to survivors of the victims in a time and place ravaged by poverty and racism. Altruistic as they might sound, the checks, $100 at most, were no simple acts of charity. They were part of an almost unimaginable scheme. To get the money, widows or other loved ones had to consent to letting doctors slice open the bodies of the dead men for autopsies that would detail the ravages of a disease the victims were told was bad blood. 50 years after the infamous Tuskegee syphilis study was revealed to the public and H. The move is rooted in America's racial reckoning after George Floyd's murder by police in 2020. It was wrong. We are ashamed of our role. We are deeply sorry, said the president of the fund, Christopher F. Collar. The apology and an accompanying monetary donation to a descendants group, the Voices for Our Father's Legacy Foundation, were presented during a ceremony in Tuskegee at a gathering of children and other relatives of men who were part of the study. Endowed in 1905 by Elizabeth Milbank Anderson, part of a wealthy and well-connected New York family, the fund was one of the nation's first private foundations. The nonprofit philanthropy had some $90 million in assets in 2019, according to tax records, and an office on Madison Avenue in Manhattan. With an early focus on child welfare and public health, today it concentrates on health policy at the state level. Collar said there is no easy way to explain how its leaders in the 1930s decided to make the payments, or to justify what happened. Generations later, some black people in the United States still fear government healthcare because of what's called the Tuskegee effect. The upshot of this was real harm, Collar told the Associated Press in an interview before the apology ceremony. It was one more example of ways that men in the study were deceived. And we are dealing as individuals, as a region, as a country, with the impact of that deceit. Lily Tyson Head's late father Freddie Lee Tyson was part of the study. She is now president of the Voices Group.